Good morning. Here we are, Wednesday, halfway through our fifth week of online, fourth week. I don't know. It's been a while. The isolation's starting to kick in. Today, I'm going to present you with a series of questions and problem type things, reasoning for you to go, why is that? How does that work? And then finally, we will answer it and we'll be able to explain it. And today, your work will go over and review that same idea. So, let me introduce you to the beautiful world. Oh, I'm going to need to bring this window up. There we go. Now, oh, no, go back. The beautiful world of sexual dimorphism. Now, that's a fancy name for the boys. The blue peacock is the boy. Look different from the girls. This kind of brownish one with only a little bit of blue on her neck, that's a female peacock. If you guys ever thought that the big, pretty ones were the females, you were actually incorrect. And we see this actually quite a bit in nature. We see scenarios where the males are much brighter or bigger, or they've got something else going on that just does not make sense, seemingly. So, for instance, we've got some jumping spiders where the males look like this with this bright iridescent patch of reds and blues, some are greens and yellows. And this is not a helpful characteristic. Like, it may look really cool, but if you want to avoid being eaten by a bird or, a frog or a toad or any of the multitude of things that eat bugs, even other bugs, this is not a good trait for you to have. And yet we see it everywhere. Once again, the left hand side is a male, the right hand side is the female. And this was really a problem as far as Darwin's theory of natural selection went. It was a big issue that he had because his theory was so good in so many scenarios, but he had real issues with this part of it because all the males look like this. With those bright oranges and blues and purples and these crazy colors, and all the females look like that. The grays and the browns and the whites. And there had to be a natural selection explanation for it, but he couldn't find it. Now, particularly if we go back to peacocks, it's worth noting, remember where they live. Peacocks live in what we call tropical dry forests. That's where tigers live. That's where leopards live. All right, and other predators like a mongoose. It's not good to have that massive train of a tail that male peacocks have when you have to try to get away from one of these big cats. They're fast predators, and if they can grab that tail, you're not getting away. If they can see that tail, you can't hide. Like, there are some problems with it. And while it says they'll fly and hide in trees, and they absolutely do, it's worth noting a peacock can't fly for long, not a male. That tail weighs a lot, produces a lot of drag, and they don't have the ability to fly long distances. So Darwin was actually quoted, and you can see the quote over here on the right. The sight of a feather in a peacock's tail, whenever I gaze at it, makes me sick. And that's a little meme over there to the left of it. But basically, what Darwin recognized was he can't explain this. He couldn't explain it. He couldn't come up with a reason for it. Although it's worth noting he did. After the publication of On the Origin of Species, his original book on natural selection and descent with modification, about 10 years later, he published a follow up to it. And that explained this idea. And it put those peacock colors and feathers and all of those extravagant male characteristics, it put all of them into natural selection so that it made sense. The easiest way to do this, or to follow it, is the line up. the pros and the cons. The pros, the benefits of having all of those traits, the cons, the negatives. So let's take a look first at the pros of having, I'm going to use the peacock as the example, but a peacock has roughly a 10 to 12 foot train, which is the long tail feathers, brightly iridescent, and all of that gives them absolutely no benefit to survival. Now, having all of that gives them a lot of cons, though. There's a lot of negatives, right? And if you count all of these together, the fact that they can't blend in, that now they're easier to get caught, and keep in mind, for a male to grow that kind of feather, that length, that size, that color, that takes energy. That takes a lot of energy that the female could use to keep herself alive, but the male has to use in order to create what we call a display. And so, it makes survival less likely. Which means that because all the males of these species have it, there has to be a reason. There has to be some kind of some kind of purpose behind it. Why make yourself this much less likely to succeed unless there's a bigger pro, a bigger gain that we're not taking into account? Now, we've talked about this many times over the year, so half of you are probably listening to this and going, oh, yeah, I know the reason for this already. But for those who aren't, if you think about it for a moment, there's got to be something. And ultimately, it comes down to this. Girls are picky. That's the basic rule throughout the animal world. And why? Well, it's real easy. In order to procreate, which is, remember, the success for an organism is producing offspring, you must have a male and a female. Um, Obviously, we're talking nature. Science is making big steps in this for people, but in nature, you gotta have a boy and a girl. And so, in order for a male to be successful, he has to be able to get a mate. Period. It doesn't matter if he is the fastest, smartest, strongest, best hiding, best predating on whatever it is that it doesn't matter all of that if he can't get a mate. And so, the little picture there, no matter the cost, doesn't matter how much less likely you are to survive. If you don't have that trait, you won't get the female. If you can't get the female, you can't procreate. If you can't procreate, then evolutionarily, that organism is a dead end. That is a failure point because the males that do have it will succeed. So that's basically the rundown of it and what led Darwin to finally understand exactly what sexual selection is. Now, for today, if you take a look in the folder on Schoology, you'll see first we have the PowerPoint. Just finished going over that, nice and quick. Then we've got the sexual selection V2 doc. The V2 is just because I've modified it a little bit. And if you go through here, this is what I would like you guys to do today. Now, opening it up, you can answer it on another sheet if you want. It says 5 pages, but trust me, most of this is literally, oh, the formatting did not carry over there, is really easy to answer separately on another page and then just take a snap of it. Oh, yeah, and we got one line down here, lame. We're also going to take a look at a mystery at the end of it. And I'm not going to go over that. I'm not going to talk about it because this is our sexual selection lab and I want to see what you guys come up with there. It's not hard. It should be pretty easy. And if you remember what we just talked about, then it makes it really easy. Now, beyond that, I've got a series of videos here stated clearly as what is sexual selection. That will explain the whole thing. Birds of Paradise are some pretty bizarre examples of sexual selection. And you can find thousands more videos of this on YouTube, which I strongly encourage. There are some really bizarre, really funny ones out there that these birds have to do in order to attract a mate. And then, of course, the evolution practice quiz. I talked about it yesterday. This is to get you prepped for our test Friday. Tomorrow will be review. I'll be here to answer questions and help go over stuff. And that should sum up for today. Nice, quick, easy. So if anybody has any questions, make sure to contact me either through Schoology or email. We're coming up on the end of this, and then we get into ecology, which will make up the entirety from here basically till the end of the year. So I hope everybody has a great Wednesday. It's been about 11 minutes, so a good short one. Have a great day. I'll see you Thursday.